Mount Vesuvius has captured the human imagination for at least 2,000 years. In the ancient Roman world, it was considered a beautiful mountain overlooking lush, fertile fields until August 24th, 79 AD, when thousands perished in a cataclysmic volcanic eruption with 100,000 times more thermal energy than the horrific Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. Those of us who study the ancient world are fascinated by this mountain for many reasons, not the least of which is because it preserved a snapshot of life in the Roman world from which we can learn so much. But we're also fascinated by the volcano itself. Students often ask, what does a volcano look like? Did it look like this in the ancient world? How could the ancients not know it was an active volcano? Can you see magma when you look inside? Today it's possible to climb Mount Vesuvius and see the answers to these questions for yourself. It is quite a climb though, very physically demanding, but when you reach the top, what you see is breathtaking. You begin at the base for the shuttle service up the mountain, where the tree line changes to tall mountain trees, and here you board a very solid military-looking vehicle. You're tightly belted to the seat because the terrain is very rough and you'd be tossed about the interior of the vehicle. But once you reach an altitude of about 1,000 meters above sea level, you're dropped off at a car park and you must walk the rest of the way to the top. There are various trails you can take, ranging from approximately 4 kilometers, which is walked in about 3 hours, to a path which is about 1.5 kilometers, the most common for tours, and which takes only about an hour to walk. At the top of the crater, you'll be about 1,200 meters above sea level. The mountain is now a protected site and is considered a park. As you can see, visitors are expected not to litter and to have minimal impact on the physical elements of the mountain. This protected site is also intended to reduce the number of people settling in what is called the red zone, the land most affected by potential volcanic activity, in order to make any future possible evacuation most efficient. As you look up the mountain, you can see scrubby brush and low bushes which blanket the sides. Looking down, you see the beautiful lush green slopes where foliage grows abundantly in the volcanic soil. This reminds us why people have stayed living in this region despite the dangers of the volcano. The soil is so fertile and what it produces is so abundant and high in quality that people cannot abandon this beautiful location. As you continue to walk up the gradient, visitors must be careful of the physical demands of the climb. It's also important to be careful not to stumble. The way down is very steep and dangerous. Once you reach the top, there's a small station where you can buy a beverage or a souvenir, and think of the people who must staff and stock it. They have to carry everything to the top each day. The view of the crater is the highlight of the journey, though. Visitors can see a wide variety of soils and stones which have been created in the volcano, as well as the strata of rock and soil from previous eruptions, the most recent having been in 1944. Over its history, Vesuvius has erupted dozens of times, but it hadn't erupted significantly during the memory or historical record of those living in the 1st century AD, which is why the ancients didn't realize the danger of their situation. Because of the altitude, there's a thick mist which often surrounds the crater and sometimes obscures the view of the countryside below, but the mist gives a very ethereal feeling to the place and reminds the visitor that this is an active volcano. Other reminders that this is an active volcano are the pieces of equipment which can be seen at different locations around the crater. This one helps to monitor any seismic activity in the volcano and any rise of magma below the surface, so that the more than 500,000 residents of the red zone around the volcano can be evacuated in the event of another cataclysmic eruption. You wouldn't necessarily spot this equipment, but it's present in a variety of locations around and on the volcano itself. As you look around the caldera, you can see the wide variety of soil textures, colors, and surfaces, all the products of various eruptions. The pumice is mixed with other volcanic rocks of different sizes, showing the variety of stones produced by eruptions. You can see the sides of the crater built up by previous eruptions, along with the plug of stone which blocks the opening at the top. Students are often surprised that there isn't liquid rock or magma visible bubbling at the surface. But Vesuvius's caldera is covered with stone, ash, and pumice, keeping the magma well below the surface. Monitors, though, check carefully to make sure that any changes in the surface of the plug, any movements in the tectonic plates, are noticed right away in case evacuation is necessary. Having looked around the crater, visitors begin to walk back down to the base, much easier than walking up, and they prepare for the drive back down the rugged terrain. As you look out at the earth at the foot of the volcano, it's easy to be reminded of the fertility of the soil and the excellent growing potential of the land. Now, as thousands of years ago, the people of Italy have found the region so beautiful and fertile that they just cannot leave. Climbing Mount Vesuvius allows us to see close up what an active volcano looks like, and why the ancient Romans who lived around it would not have known what it was or what it was capable of. The eruption of this mountain nearly 2,000 years ago, though, has had an enormous impact on our understanding of the ancient Roman world, giving us a view of daily life in the area which is second to none. In addition, this mountain led to the development of volcanology itself. Pliny the Younger, who witnessed the eruption, wrote a brief but incredibly impactful account of the eruption, which has helped lead to the study of volcanoes and to the development of an understanding of the stages of cataclysmic eruptions. This understanding continues to save lives in volcanic regions today, and it helps us to understand the forces which have continued to shape the land on which we live.